This is Transportation Secretary Tim Gatz. This meeting of the Oklahoma Transportation Commission is being conducted by video conference and all commissioners are attending remotely. The time is now 11:02 a.m. and all commissioners are now logged into the video conference. The public access will be monitored by ODOT to ensure that if the audio connection is lost or interrupted, the meeting will be stopped until the connection is restored. If the audio connection is not restored within 30 minutes, the meeting will be deemed adjourned at the time the connection was lost and shall be reconvened at 1:30 p.m. today. If an audio connection cannot be restored at the time scheduled to reconvene, the meeting shall be reconvened on the next business day at 9 a.m. and thereafter on the next business day at 9 a.m. until an audio connection is restored. We are ready to begin, Mr. Chairman. Turn the meeting to you, sir.
Thanks, Tim. I hereby call this meeting to order and ask everyone to please mute your microphones. And I've a set of instructions here I need to read. Please keep your microphones on mute until you're ready to speak. Only members of the commission and the presenters on the agenda will be recognized to speak. Remember to announce your name before speaking each time so they can keep accurate minutes for the record. Please direct your questions, comments, and motions to the chair and I will recognize you. Roll call votes will be conducted with Commission Secretary reading off each commissioner's name. Commissioners, please state your name when you vote. The Secretary will call the roll.
Mr. Coburn.
Coburn here.
Mr. Grimsley.
Grimsley here.
Mr. Freimiller.
Freimiller here.
Mr. Shannon.
Shannon here.
Mr. McCowan.
McCowan here.
Mr. Dyson.
Dyson here.
Mr. Alexander.
Alexander here.
Mr. LaForge.
LaForge here.
Mr. Peterson.
Peterson here.
Before we go any further, I'm only getting one small picture in the corner of the commissioners. The agenda is all I have on my screen. And I'm on a TV Zoom.
TW can tell you how to expand that, Gene. Commissioner Shannon, you did a good job with one of the other guys.
I don't think he's on an iPad. She has it on a certain view mode where you can see the agenda. That's intentional. While that's on, you're not going to be able to get a full screen of all the commissioners.
Okay. All right. Thank you, TW. At this time, Secretary Gatz, you are recognized for announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, commissioners. I'm pleased this morning to recognize our Media and Public Relations group. The AASHTO Committee on Transportation Communication, otherwise known as TRANSCOM, was selected the Media and Public Relations group in August with a first place award in a national skills competition. Each year, the Committee on Transportation Communication recognizes the outstanding work of state transportation public relations practitioners. The contest is considered the premier competition in the transportation industry, and the awards have become a standard of public relations excellence among state departments of transportation. The 2020 Transcom Awards were announced virtually this year due to the COVID-19 precautions, and the ODOT NPR office was selected for first place in the news release category for its work to announce the opening of the Oklahoma City Boulevard to traffic in 2019. This release encompassed ODOT's 25-year path of the I-40 crosstown relocation and construction of the new boulevard. It also highlighted and recognized the numerous partners and agencies that made the opening of the downtown Oklahoma City Boulevard possible. With this release alone, the Media and Public Relations Office reached more than 7,500 people through email and resulted in 3 print stories and 28 stories on 5 Oklahoma City Metro television stations, garnering 1.4 million in total viewership. Again, I'm pleased to announce the selection of the Media and Public Relations group to receive this award. And at this particular moment, had we been in person, it would be time to do the photo op. But certainly congratulations to Media and Public Relations on the receipt. And we're proud to have that designation and be selected by AASHTO. Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to answer any questions that the commission might have of me.
Any questions? If not, we'll move to item number 122, approval of the minutes for the Transportation Committee meeting September the 8th, 2020. Do I have a?
Excuse me, Gene, my error. Nothing.
Move that be, LaForge, I move they be approved.
Do I have a second?
Second by Shannon.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Coburn,
Coburn, yes.
Mr. Grimsley,
Grimsley, yes.
Mr. Frymiller,
Frymiller, yes.
Mr. Shannon,
Shannon, yes.
Mr. McCown,
John, yes.
Mr. Dyson,
Dyson, yes.
Mr. Alexander,
Alexander, yes.
Mr. LaForge,
LaForge, yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Peterson, yes.
Commission has approved the minutes. We'll move to the consent docket, which contains item 123 and 124. These items were discussed in detail in our committee meetings. If any commissioner would like to pull any individual items for discussion, he may at this time. Otherwise, do I hear a motion for approval of the consent docket?
Motion to approve the consent docket, Peterson?
Do I hear a second? Have a second. Sherry, would you do the roll call, please?
Mr. Coburn,
Coburn, yes.
Mr. Grimsley,
Grimsley, yes.
Mr. Frymiller,
Frymiller, yes.
Mr. Shannon,
Shannon, yes.
Mr. McCown,
John, yes.
Mr. Dyson,
Dyson, yes.
Mr. Alexander,
Alexander, yes.
Mr. LaForge,
LaForge, yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Peterson, yes.
This time we'll move to the motion carries. Lansdale items by Mr. Phillips, item number 123.
We go to the programming item.
Mr. Chairman, this is Tim Tegler. We're on programming item 125.
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. This is Tim Tegler, Director of Engineering. I'm presenting item 125, programming item this month. It's in Cleveland County in District 3. This project is to repair a vehicle impact damage to Northwest 12th Street over I-35 and more. The estimated cost of this project is $120,000. The party responsible for the damage is known. Approval is recommended, and I'll try to answer any questions if you have any.
This is LaForge. Will there be, you said the party's known, but you don't say anything about getting any money out of them.
Well, and that's typically what our general counsel will do. They will pursue that if they have the insurance company. So I'm sure they have all that information, sir.
Usually we get a report on that. Does that come later?
I would assume if you haven't gotten it, it should be coming later then.
Thank you.
You've heard the presentation. Do I have a motion for approval?
Peterson, motion.
Second,
Dyson, second.
please call the roll.
Mr. Coburn,
Coburn, yes.
Mr. Grimsley,
Grimsley, yes.
Mr. Frymiller,
Frymiller, yes.
Mr. Shannon,
Shannon, yes.
Mr. McCown,
John, yes.
Mr. Dyson,
Dyson, yes.
Mr. Alexander,
Alexander, yes.
Mr. LaForge,
LaForge, yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Peterson, yes.
Mr. Pegel, you may continue with item number 126 on engineering contracts.
All right, thank you. This again is Tim Tegler, Director of Engineering, presenting item 126. I have 4 statewide all districts items and 7 project-specific items this month. Part A, statewide all districts. This is our on-demand general environmental and engineering with Altamira US, Intercon Services, Environmental Works, Stan Tech, and Terracon Consultants. The aggregate not to exceed amount for these 5 contracts is $1 million. Part B, statewide all districts, our on-demand bridge rehabilitation 8-year construction work plan contract. This is with CEC Corporation, EST, MacArthur Associated Consultants, Neo Design, Tetra Tech, and Walter P. Moore and Associates. The aggregate not to exceed amount for these 6 contracts is $1,500,000. Part C, statewide all districts, our on-demand shop drawing review with Consort Engineering and MKEC Engineering. Aggregate not to exceed amount for these 2 contracts is $500,000. And Part D is all districts are on-demand aerial photography with Quantum Spatial for $100,000. Items E through K are included in our 8-year construction work plan program. So item E is Wagner County and District 1 construction plans for State Highway 51. This is with Craig and Keith Line for $344,896. Part F is in Atoka County and District 2 construction plans for US 69 and Tushka. This is with HNTB Corporation for $859,089. Part G, Pontotoc County and District 3 construction plans for State Highway 1. This is with CH Guernsey and Company for $227,375. Part H is K County and District 4 construction plans for US 77. This is with Cowan Group Engineering for $519,335. Part I, K County, District 4, construction plans for US 60. This is with Freeze and Nichols for $548,500. Part J in Jackson County in District 5, construction plans for State Highway 6. This is with White Engineering Associates for $451,400. And finally, Part K in Delaware County in District 8. These are construction plans for State Highway 10. This is with CP&Y for $575,680. Approval is recommended, and I'll try to answer any questions if you have any.
Are there any questions? You've heard the presentation. Do I have a motion for approval of item number 126?
This is Freimiller, I approve.
Shannon, second.
Please call the roll, Secretary.
Mr. Coburn,
Coburn, yes.
Mr. Grimsley,
Grimsley, yes.
Mr. Freimiller,
Freimiller, yes.
Mr. Shannon,
Shannon, yes.
Mr. McCowen,
John, yes.
Mr. Dyson,
Dyson, yes.
Mr. Alexander,
Alexander, yes.
Mr. LaForge,
LaForge, yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Peterson, yes.
Okay.
Mr. Tigler, you may continue on item number 127.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, this is Tim Tegler, Director of Engineering, presenting item 127. I have 2 statewide all district items and 2 project-specific items this month. Part A is our statewide all districts, our on-demand land surveying with Carroll Surveying and Mapping, CEC Corporation, Frontier Land Surveying, Heartland Surveying and Mapping, Keystone Engineering and Land Surveying, and White Hawk Engineering and Design. The total aggregate increase for these contract supplements is $1,800,000. Part B is our statewide all districts on-demand state bridge rehabilitation with Aguirre and Fields, Consort Engineers, CP&Y, Freeze and Nichols, Garver, and White Engineering Associates. Total aggregate increase for these contract supplements is $1,500,000. Part C is our Haskell-LaFleur County project in District 2. This is for additional engineering to do the final construction plans for State Highway 2 with Guy Engineering Services for $233,455.79. And finally, Part D in Washington County, District 8, for additional engineering to develop the final construction plans for State Highway 11. This is with Poe and Associates for $17,635. Approval is recommended. Try to answer any questions if you have any at this time.
Are there any questions? Not, do I hear a motion for the approval of item number 127?
So move Shannon.
Does I have a here second?
Grimsley, second.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Coburn,
Coburn, yes.
Mr. Grimsley,
Grimsley, yes.
Mr. Frymiller,
I'm Frymiller, yes.
Mr. Shannon,
Shannon, yes.
Mr. McCowen,
Allen, yes.
Mr. Dyson,
Dyson, yes.
Mr. Alexander,
Alexander, yes.
Mr. LaForge,
LaForge, yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Peterson, yes.
Do I hear a motion for approval of item number 127?
It's voted,
We already,
sorry.
Here a second?
we already voted
Second
on
by
it.
Shannon.
I'm sorry. I read ahead. We don't need to approve it, but let's do it. Item number 128, change orders that were cumulative of less than $75,000 will be presented by Mr. Leonard.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Mr. Secretary. This is John Leonard, ODOT State Construction Engineer. Present item numbered 128, parts A through double C. These are change orders on projects which have a cumulative total of change orders of $75,000 or less. This item is presented for your information only and no action is necessary, but I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? If not, these were consent items and were discussed in the previous meeting. Mr. Leonard, you're recognized to present item number 129, change orders greater than 75,000.
Yes, sir. This is John Leonard again, State Construction Engineer. I'd like to present item number 129, parts A through double C as well. These are change orders on projects which have a cumulative total of change orders greater than $75,000. Your approval is recommended, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? You've heard the presentation. Do I have a motion for approval of item 129?
LaForge,
Approval.
Have a second.
LaForge, second.
Any discussion? Okay, please call the roll.
Mr. Coburn,
Coburn, yes.
Mr. Grimsley,
Grimsley, yes.
Mr. Frymiller,
Frymiller, yes.
Mr. Shannon,
Shannon, yes.
Mr. McCowen,
John, yes.
Mr. Dyson,
Dyson, yes.
Mr. Alexander,
Alexander, yes.
Mr. LaForge,
LaForge, yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Peterson, yes.
Thank you.
Item 130 is the proposed bid opening. Mr. Hackney, you are recognized to present the item number 130.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. This is Robert Hackney, Project Funding Manager. Item 130, proposed bid openings, consists of the tentative January 2021 and the tentative February 2021 bid openings. The department recommends approval.
Do I have a motion for approval?
So move Shannon.
A second, please.
Alexander, second.
Second, Coburn.
Any discussion? Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Coburn,
Coburn, yes.
Mr. Grimsley,
Grimsley, yes.
Mr. Frymiller,
Frymiller, yes.
Mr. Shannon,
Shannon, yes.
Mr. McCowen,
John, yes.
Mr. Dyson,
Dyson, yes.
Mr. Alexander,
Alexander, yes.
Mr. LaForge,
LaForge, yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Peterson, yes.
Item number 131 is awarded. Mr. Delcy, you are recognized to present. Please state your name before proceeding.
Thank you. This is Anthony Dels, Office Engineer. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Item 131 are our recommendations from the September 17th bid opening. It is recommended that the following items from that bid opening referred to by call order be awarded. That's call orders 700, 710, 720, 730, 750, 760, 770, 780, 810, 820, 830, 840, 850, 860, 870, 880, 890, 900, 904, 906, 910, 920, 930, 940, 950, 960, and 970. This concludes our recommendations for award. Your approval is requested.
You've heard the presentation. Do I have a motion for approval of item 131?
Forge, move to be approved.
Peterson, second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Coburn,
Coburn, yes.
Mr. Grimsley,
Grimsley, yes.
Mr. Frymiller,
Frymiller, yes.
Mr. Shannon,
Shannon, yes.
Mr. McCowen,
John, yes.
Mr. Dyson,
Dyson, yes.
Mr. Alexander,
Alexander, yes.
Mr. LaForge,
Forge, yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Peterson, yes.
Thank you, Commissioners.
This time, Chairman will present item 132, the Director's Report. Secretary Gaps, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. I would give you an update on the activities related to the federal highway program. The Congress passed and the President signed an act last week that effectively extends our current FAST Act federal authorization. You might recall that the FAST Act was set to expire at the end of September. The Congress extended the FAST Act for an additional year, so it will carry us through federal fiscal year 21. And at the same time, they included transportation as part of the continuing resolution that will keep the federal government operating through December 11th. That translates for the Department of Transportation to the point that we will have federal aid funding through December 11th that will get us out of the starting blocks for federal fiscal year 21 and allow us to continue to make progress. We will monitor the status of the federal aid program as Congress begins to consider what the budgetary authorizations are going to look like beyond December 11th. And I will give you periodic updates of those proceedings as they occur. The 8-year construction work plan, we are preparing to reinstigate the meetings with yourselves. Those meetings are going to be scheduled through the month of October and into November in preparation to present the 8-year plan for your consideration at the December meeting. So look forward to discussing the individual highway districts with you and what's going on in those locations in the context of the 8-year plan, and look for those meeting invitations to come. The department was the recipient of a build grant from the federal government. That award was a $22 million build grant that will help us upgrade the Bridgeport Bridge on US 281 and Route 66 in Canadian and Caddo counties. Internationally, and you certainly might recognize the bridge from the picture that's on the screen there, it's internationally known as the bridge that's synonymous with Route 66. What this grant will allow us to do is preserve the landmark and return that bridge to its full carrying capacity and really improve the condition of it while preserving the historic character of that bridge. So we're really excited to have the opportunity. I'd like to thank certainly Senator Jim Inhofe, Representative Frank Lucas, and the rest of our congressional delegation, Lieutenant Governor Matt Pinnell, and Dr. Bob Blackburn with the Historical Society and the Oklahoma Route 66 Association for supporting our application and really lending a lot of tremendous insight into crafting a project there, again, that preserves the historic character of the structure while allowing us to make a tremendous improvement to that bridge location. We will do everything that we can to have that project completed in advance of the Route 66 Centennial Celebration. We also were the partner in a Kiamichi Railroad grant from the USDOT. It was a $10 million Consolidated Rail Infrastructure and Safety Improvement Grant, otherwise known as CRISI. And that is with the Kiamichi Tri-State Freight Rail Improvement Project. And it will fund major upgrades to restore 36 miles of KRR track for access between Antlers and Hugo. The department supported this grant application. Again, we thank Senator Inhofe, the congressional delegation, and certainly the Choctaw Nation should be recognized for supporting this project also. And it'll be a great benefit to southeastern Oklahoma as that rail line comes back in a much improved form. Want to comment just briefly on the Interstate 40 widening east of Oklahoma City from Interstate 240 junction east about 4 miles. That project is a capacity addition project that encompasses the Choctaw Road interchange improvement along with the southernmost interchange on the Kickapoo Turnpike. That project is extremely important, and we're really looking forward to getting traffic normalized on that stretch and getting the Kickapoo Turnpike. Sometime this month, the Kickapoo will open from 23rd Street, State Highway 62, north to the Turner Turnpike. And then the southernmost section will open, including the interchange with Interstate 40 at a point later in the year, probably February or March in calendar year 2021. So again, those improvements are extremely important to the carrying capacity of Interstate 40, and we look forward to that new connection with the Kickapoo Turnpike. We are also did open a new interchange on Interstate 40 in Elk City. It's a diverging diamond interchange, the first of its kind in the state of Oklahoma. And it's an innovative design, moves traffic very efficiently and very safely, but it is a little bit unusual in its operation and certainly takes a little bit of time to get used to how it functions. Again, that is going to be a much safer interchange, and we look forward to long service and a much safer travel for the traveling public at that particular location. We appreciate your consideration and award of the project on US 69 in McAllister. That's one of the significant contracts that you consider today. That's representative of the next phase of the reconstruction of US 69 between 270 and South 14th Street there in McAllister. It's going to greatly improve the traffic flows in the area, and there's more phases to come to continue our efforts to modernize US 69. US 69 carries a tremendous amount of truck traffic and is certainly a high volume facility that we need to really make sure we're taking care of. And we appreciate your consideration and award of that contract this morning. Give you an update on the department's efforts associated with the Oklahoma Public Transit Policy Plan as required by House Bill 1365. We've been working very closely with the Oklahoma Transit Association and other stakeholders, and we have a draft that is completed. We're going to release that draft on October 23rd and open that to public comment. We expect to meet the deadline for presentation of the final plan to the governor and the legislature in December. So we're on schedule and on track with that public transit plan. That begins to set the stage for considering what types of public transit opportunities Oklahoma citizens expect and need for the future. And then it also considers some of the funding and revenue challenges that we're going to have ahead of us to try to be able to provide for those services. So we're really excited about getting that plan to the finish line and look forward to completing it in December. On the Transportation Modernization Initiative front, we're continue our work with our consultant Guidehouse. We're progressing in accordance with the schedule for that project. We are right now in a what I would consider to be the current state analysis through the end of October, where Guidehouse is really evaluating the three agencies in the Transportation Cabinet, OTA, Aeronautics Commission, and ODOT, to understand how we operate as we currently exist. Beginning in November and extending into next spring, they will start to develop and make recommendations on what we might need to look like in the future under a modernization. So again, that work's ongoing, and we are preparing to enter a phase where we will begin to take a deeper dive and identify opportunities where we can gain efficiencies, work closer together, share resources, and deliver the transportation programs that we're responsible for in the most efficient manner possible for Oklahoma citizens. And on the COVID-19 front update, our virtual meetings continue to be very successful. We're continuing to manage our business in a very responsible manner. Credit to our employees, and we really appreciate the way that they've conducted themselves. We continue to be very effective from the standpoint of teleworking, where we've got personnel that have that opportunity. And we continue to be very effective where we don't have teleworking opportunities at social distancing and doing all the things like wearing masks that help protect each other. So credit to our employees. They've done a tremendous job managing through this pandemic and are to be congratulated for their progress. And I just ask that they keep up the good work. Also, on the COVID front, as we begin to plan for the future of our Transportation Commission meetings, we'll begin to talk a little bit about what will transpire after November as we potentially get into the realm of in-person meetings, and we'll keep you updated as those plans progress. And I will give you a firm plan at the November commission meeting for what our future meetings will look like in December, January, and into 2021. So with that, Mr. Chairman, that's all I have for the director's report. I would be happy to answer any questions that the Transportation Commission may have of me.
Do any of the commissioners have any comments or questions that you'd like to ask?
I do not. Keep up the good work.
Now, here at the end, it's a little bit interesting. Do I have a motion for adjournment? We're not going to vote on it right now, but I need a motion and a second for adjournment.
Peterson, so moved.
Second.
Second.
At this point, Jerry, you're supposed to, I think, read a report of the chairman one before we vote on this. Verification that we had no.
I'd like to report that ODOT has been monitoring the public video and audio connection through this meeting, and it's been reported to me that the public video and audio connection has been maintained throughout the meeting. All right.
The time is now 11:36. We're now ready to conclude this teleconference. Would you call the roll for the vote?
Mr. Coburn,
Coburn, yes.
Mr. Grimsley,
Grimsley, yes.
Mr. Frymiller,
Miller, yes.
Mr. Shannon,
Shannon, yes.
Mr. McCowan,
Yes.
Mr. Dyson,
Dyson, yes.
Mr. Alexander,
Alexander, yes.
Mr. LaForge,
LaForge, yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Peterson, yes.
We are adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.